um, to our Shanka Samadhan event. Needless to say, it gives us all of us an opportunity to clear our doubts. हमने कोई भी शंका होए related to our Jain teachings, કેમ follow કરીએ છીએ, કેમ આવી રીતે જ અમે કરીએ છીએ, અને એવા ઘણા ઘણા questions, बहुत सवाल हमें आप सबसे मिले हैं, हमने वो सवाल compile किए हैं, and we are so much honored that Sheetal Bhai, our Vidwan, local scholar, he has agreed to answer those questions and help us with our journey in our spiritual world. So Sheetal Bhai, if you're there, Jai Janendra and welcome, and thank you again for accepting our proposal to lead us through some of our doubts and questions.
Thank you for your kind words. Yes.
Yeah, and needless to say, you will be nimit to all of our journey today when you answer
I'll try my best.
questions.
I'll try my best.
Okay, so just some points to note. We want this session to be very interactive, but of course with 60 plus people on the Zoom call, it will be very difficult to manage. So please use chat option. So when Sheetal Bhai answers your question, if there are any follow-on question or any doubts, please use chat option. We are expecting our Pathshala students to join in as well. So if there are any questions asked by our Pathshala students, please mention it in our chat with the kid's name if possible, and we will definitely prioritize those questions. So without further ado, if we can all start. We'll start with the Mangalacharan. So Sheetal Bhai, if you don't mind, can I start with the Mangalacharan?
Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Arhant Siddhe Suri Upadhyaya Sadhu Sarva अर्थ के प्रकाशी मंगलिक उपकारी है, तीन को स्वरूप जाने राग से भई जो भक्ति, गाय को नमाए स्तुति को उच्चारी है, धन्य धन्य तुम ही से काज सब भय, कर जोड़ी बार बार वंदना हमारी है, मंगल कल्याण सुख ऐसो हम चाहत है, मंगल कल्याण सुख ऐसो हम चाहत है, हो मेरी ऐसी दशा जैसी तुम धारी है, हो मेरी ऐसी दशा जैसी तुम धारी है. Okay, so the first question that we have got is related to the very first thing that we all do in our morning ritual in temple. So the very first thing, पूजा के पहले या पूजा में ही सबसे पहले हम इससे शुरुआत करते हैं अभिषेक. So जो पहला question है, प्रश्न है, वो है हम अभिषेक करते ही क्यों हैं? What is the benefit of doing Abhishek? So Sheetal Bhai?
Yes. Essentially, when we celebrate the Panch Kalyanak, when the Tirthankar is born, we celebrate Janma Kalyanak, where the Indras and the Devs, they do Janma Kalyanak with Shir Samudra Jal using 1008 Kalash, और वे अभिषेक करते हैं और भगवान की महिमा वो प्रसंग बताते हैं. तो प्रश्न ये होता है कि जब भगवान का जन्म होता है फिर उसको स्नान करने की जरूरत है कि नहीं, ये भी बहुत एक इम्पोर्टेंट पॉइंट है. तो श्री आदि पुराण में ऐसा खुलासा आया है, हम पढ़ते हैं, इसमें से उसका श्लोक है और हम हिंदी पढ़ते हैं. इंद्र ने भगवान का आदर सहित स्नान कराने, वस्त्राभूषण पहनाने, दूध पिलाने, शरीर के संस्कार, तेल कज्जल आदि लगाना करने और क्रीड़ा कराने के कार्य में अनेक देवियों को धाई बनाकर नियुक्त किया था. जन्म कल्याणक मानने के बाद जब इंद्र अपने स्वर्ग को चले गए थे, तब क्या व्यवस्था कर गए थे, यह उसका वर्णन है। तो हम जो मंदिर में भगवान के रोज प्रतिमा का अभिषेक करते हैं, ये रिचुअल यहाँ से ही आया है। क्योंकि जब हम प्रतिमा विराजमान करते हैं, तो भगवान की प्रतिमा साफ रहे, क्लीन रहे, तो उसका वितरागता झलक और स्पष्टता से आए। उस कारण हम उसको क्लीनिंग प्रोसेस को ही अभिषेक कहने में आता है। वास्तविक रीते देखा जाए तो जब बाल तीर्थंकर है, तो उसको तो स्नान करने की तो आवश्यक ही नहीं है। क्यों आवश्यक नहीं है? क्योंकि जो तीर्थंकर होते हैं, उनको 10 अतिशय जन्म से ही होता है। 4 जो अतिशय है वो जन्म से, ये स्नान संबंधी है। एक तो पसीना रहित शरीर, उनका पसीना रहित शरीर है, इसलिए उसको स्नान करने की जरूरत नहीं है। दूसरा यह है कि उसका आहार तो है, लेकिन उसका निहार नहीं होता। तीसरा यह है कि उसका अति सुगंध शरीर है, बहुत सालों तक वो स्नान नहीं करे, तदपि उसका अति सुगंधित शरीर है। जैसे हमारे मुनिराज होते हैं, वे तो स्नान करते ही नहीं है, तो फिर भी उसका शरीर सुगंधित होता है। उसी तरह ये तो तीर्थंकर परमात्मा का जीव है। और चौथी बात है कि शरीर महा सुंदर होता है, स्नान नहीं करे तो भी महा सुंदर शरीर होता है। इसलिए बाल तीर्थंकर को स्नान की आवश्यकता नहीं है। लेकिन जब हम आइडल विराजमान करते हैं, तो उसको क्लीनलीनेस की दृष्टि से क्लीन रखना बहुत आवश्यक है। और अभिषेक क्यों करना चाहिए? क्योंकि यही दिस इज द ओनली ओकेजन व्हेन वी गेट टू टच द प्रतिमा, वी कम क्लोज टू द प्रतिमा। और ये एक भगवान का प्रतीक भी है, महिमा का प्रतीक भी है।
Okay, thank you, Sheetal bhai. Related to the same question of Abhishek, the second question is, when we or when men do Abhishek, they wear special costume, dhoti and case. So
Yes.
why do they change and then wear those special dress? So why is there a dress code?
Essentially, whenever you go to the office, you have a dress code, either smart wear, you wear a suit. If you go to the military, you have a dress code. If you are a nurse, you have a dress code. So when you do Abhishek, you also have a dress code. So essentially, when you are doing Abhishek, you are Dev. So it is as if you are acting the part of Dev and you are doing the Abhishek. So wearing the dhoti and the dhoti and the kesh signifies that you are Dev.
Yeah, yeah. And it is it may also be due to not wearing your home clothes. It can be unclean, and dhoti and khes are cleaned every day in mandir. So it's you come to the mandir, you again wear a clean clothes and then do abhishek. So is it related to that aspect as well?
Well, it is basically the uniform. The most
Yeah,
important thing, it is a uniform. And secondly, that uniform has to be clean as well. So whenever you use dhoti kesh, it has to be cleaned every single day. So you have a shower, then you put on clean dhoti and kesh, and only then you can do a abhishek. So when you clean your body, you wear clean clothes, because we are attracted to outer objects still.
yes,
हमारे निमित्ताधीन दृष्टि होती है, इसलिए हम स्नान करते हैं तो हमको अच्छा लगता है, क्लीन कपड़े पहनते हैं तो हमको अच्छा लगता है, हमारा भाव सुधर जाता है और शुभ
yeah.
परिणाम बहुत आसानी से आता है। इसलिए वजह कि हम जब शावर करते हैं तो हम अभिषेक की तैयारी उसी समय से करते हैं।
Yeah, yeah. I see there is a related query on Abhishek, which is to do with why women can't do Abhishek. We have that question later on, so we'll just park and move on. The next question is, in our mandir, we talked about the morning ritual. We begin with Abhishek. So if we come to the evening part, we generally tend to do Aarti, or even during daytime, whenever we get an opportunity, we want to do Aarti. So
Yes.
similar question, Sheetal, why do we do Aarti?
There is no real requirement to do arti. What arti is just worshipping before the idol. It is just a form of a bhakti. So if you don't do arti as such, but do
Yeah,
bhakti, it has the same effect. The custom of arti started in the old days when there were no proper lights and facilities
yeah,
like that. So in the evening, the temples used to be sort of dark. So how do you do darshan of pratima? So they used to take the arti and then do arti like this. So they see the whole of the Bhagwan. That's how the custom of the arti started, and it is still continuing today. So we are just following the old customs.
Okay. And so is there a reason why we do Abhishek and Puja only in the morning? So this is from the chat. I'm just picking up some questions real time related to Abhishek and Aarti.
Because we can't drink water at night, so you can't obviously use water on the Bhagwan's body either. And when we prepare dravya, you have to wash the dravya for the puja. So when you're washing it, again, you're using water. So you are not allowed to use water during the night time. So therefore, puja is only performed in the mornings.
Okay. Okay. So moving on, there are some questions related to our food habits and why should we eat and not eat or consume some food in a given duration. So the first among them, or fourth question, Sheetal Bhai, would be, um, and we know we are going towards veganism, so vegetarian and then veganism. So how is it related to Jainism? So as Jains, should we eat dairy? Because in our some Puran, we also see Muniraj taking ahar of a kheer, which is essentially a dessert made out of milk. So should we as Jains consume dairy, or should we not consume dairy, and how is it related to kandamul? So which should we prioritize? So if we are to prioritize today that I can only give up dairy or I can only give up kandamul, how should we prioritize and how should we look at it?
The first principle is that Jainism does not prescribe a vegan diet. Jainism says that milk is allowed, the milk products are allowed, except for Sri Adinath Bhagwan, who had ahar dan of sugarcane juice. The rest of the 23 Tirthankars had ahar of the kheer, the rice pudding, essentially. So they had ahar made out of milk, essentially. But it is the modern farming methods that has made the dairy industry quite a cruel industry. And therefore, we need to recognize the current modern practices as well. If the current modern practices are hinsa, then it automatically means that the products produced by it also becomes hinsak as well. Therefore, per se, milk is consumable in a Jain diet, but modern practices currently forbid us because of the practices. And even today, we have alternatives to milk products that we can use. Buying milk products from Tesco's or Sainsbury's, like oat milk or whatever, even those are a buck really. So, that is not the solution. The solution is making your own milk at home. That's the first point. And the second point is, what is more hinsak, milk production or kanmul? That question is like asking, what is more, किस में पाप ज्यादा है? मनुष्य को मारने में पाप ज्यादा है या बकरा को मारने में पाप ज्यादा है? दोनों में पाप तो है. You can't say, let me prioritize this or prioritize that. Both are pap at the end of the day. There may be a degree in variation. There may be a variation in the degree of the hinsa, but it is still pap at the end of the day. So why should one condone कि आप कंदमूल खा सकते हो लेकिन डेयरी मत खाओ, कंदमूल खाओ? ये उपदेश तो नहीं दिया जा सकता. उपदेश तो यही दिया जा सकता कि दोनों ही छोड़ने योग्य है.
So जिसमें भी हिंसा है वो छोड़ने योग्य है.
हाँ, जिसको कंदमूल खाना है वो ऐसा तर्क बनाते हैं.
सही बात है.
And also, what I frequently say in my lectures is we are born in the fifth year. We are unfortunate to be born in the fifth era, where I often say that nothing that is produced is consumable. Yep. If you want to eat consumable food, be born in the fourth era. आपने पाप किया है, इसलिए आप पंचम काल में आपका जन्म हुआ है. तो आपको कुछ शुद्ध आहार नहीं मिलता। जो आप ये ककड़ी खाते हो, टमाटर तो भक्ष्य ही है, ककड़ी खाते हो, लौकी खाते हो, ये भी जो फर्टिलाइज यूज करते हैं वो भी महाहिंसक है। कितने कीड़े मर जाते हैं प्रोसेस में, वो केमिकल्स, हार्श केमिकल्स डालते हैं। और ये जो फार्मिंग प्रैक्टिसेस है वो भी हिंसक ही है। लेकिन हम क्या करें फिर? क्या हमारे पास दूसरा कोई उपाय नहीं है? लेकिन उपाय नहीं है तो ऐसा नहीं मानना कि हमारा ज्ञान सही न होना चाहिए। हमारा ज्ञान तो अवश्य सही होना चाहिए, और मन में खेद भी होना चाहिए कि हम सदोष तो है, इसमें पाप तो है, लेकिन हमारी मजबूरी है।
Hmm, hmm. So there is one question in the chat section, Sheetal Bhai. You just few sentences ago, you mentioned that even oatmeal or meal replacements that we get in our supermarkets
Yeah.
are not completely cruelty free, right? So how is oat milk considered a bhaksh?
Well, it is because, remember that we use anjana pani. So
Yeah.
whatever you buy from a supermarket, if it contains anjana pani, it is a bhakshya.
Yeah, and yes, and they will definitely have some portion of water which would be unfiltered. So yes, yeah,
Yes.
okay, okay. There is another question related from the chat section again, that is reheating and consuming the food within same day okay? And does reheating involve any form of hinsa?
Reheating is possible providing you stick to the duration of the food. The food that we eat has a certain duration, the chapati we eat has a duration of 6 hours. The curry we have is also 6 hours. If anything is fried, then I think it's 7 days. I think I could be wrong. 7 days. If you have achar, then it's 24 days. If it's dahi, it's 24 hours, etc. So providing it's done during that duration, it is doable.
Yeah, okay.
What about pizzas? Because that's the one favorite one with that people reheat a lot from last night.
Pizza is a bhakshya, full stop. You can't say pizza का duration कितना है, क्योंकि pizza ही अभक्ष्य है.
Again, going back to our Abhaksh discussion, Sheetal Bhai, you mentioned that anything, that means anything that we get out of our superstores,
Yes.
if it is, and I guess everything, almost everything will have some form of water in it or would be made up of water. And they use unfiltered water. So from that perspective, it is abhaksh. So, but
Yes.
why should we use only filtered water? So that is the next question in our list, Sheetal Bhai.
Are we on question? Is it 6? Are we on?
Yes.
Yeah, 6. Okay.
Why should we filter water before drinking? Or to just extend the question, why should we use filter water for everything, actually, not only for drinking?
Just one other point I wanted to make was जो त्यागी होते हैं, ब्रह्मचारी होते हैं, वो तो इस देश में आएंगे ही नहीं। आपको सुमति प्रकाश को बुलाओ, वो नहीं आएंगे। कल्पना जी को बुलाओ, वो नहीं आएंगे, क्योंकि वो कुआं के पानी हो, नदी की पानी हो, बरसात की पानी हो, वो ही पीते हैं, वो नहीं आएंगे। इसलिए जब सद्या जी आई थी, वो प्रवचनार्थ इधर आई थी, तो उसने जो रेन वाटर था, हमको याद है, बिग बकेट्स में रेन वाटर कलेक्ट करते थे और वो ही फिल्टर करते थे। तो that was a lens that she went to maintain her standards. So that was one other important point. And also with regard to the fifth era, so I was saying that we are unfortunate we are born in the fifth era. One important point in Ravi Shen Acharya's Harivansh Puran, he said, I don't wish it on my enemy to be a human in the fifth era. That's what he said.
Oh.
Yeah, हरिवंश पुराण हमारे रामायण, तो इसलिए वो बोलते हैं कि पंचम आरा के मनुष्य होना बहुत खतरनाक है. So that was the other point. The question about the water is this: before we didn't well or a river or a pond, etc. So what they used to do is use the filtering process using the the cloth they use the cloth to weed out the thrust sieve from it. So when you did the filtering process, you could actually see the thrust sieve in it. So what they would then do is do the filtering process and put the thrust sieve back in the same pond or well or river to protect those thrust sieves. So that was the way that Jains purified their water. So the current waters that you get from taps is completely hinsak. When you open your tap and you filter it, it's still completely hinsak, because by the time the water reaches your house, the destruction has already been done. They've already killed off all the animals, the thrust sieve from it, and then the water comes to your tap, comes to your tank, and from your tank it comes to your house. So the water that you use in a house is totally hinsak, that no brahmachari or tyagi would use. That's the first point. I think that's the, yeah. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what I get is there is actually a process behind filtration too. So if we just get a filter out of a market, or in India, there's AquaGuards and Eureka Forbes. So even that is hinsak. So is that correct, right?
Well, we buy those ready-made products which we just put
Yes.
on the tap. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is totally hinsak. That is totally hinsak. That is in fact useless. It's better not to do it at all. But we just have this mentality that because we are Jains, we have to filter our water. So we do whatever we can. So that's the easy way out. So what we do is we leave the cloth there for days
Yeah.
on end and not change it. So whatever animals are collected in that, so the water drains over those dead animals and then into your glass, technically. So those are totally useless. So the sheet that we use has to be, so when you sort of line it up against the sun, you can't see through it. It has to be that thick.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And I believe.
Can I ask a supplementary question, please?
Yeah, go on, Chandrakant bhai.
Yeah. Shita, the question is around Abhishek, the water which we use in the mandir, that comes from the tap water, and then that is further sterilized. So do you think that we should be really using either rainwater or water from the stream?
Yeah, who has the time? No one has time to come for darshan, let alone use tap, rainwater.
That's secondary, but I'm saying that would be an ideal situation, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but you have to think of the practicalities as well. You have to accept. It's better to accept. You live in a hinsak country. If you are that bothered about it, you should be living in a village, really.
No, I think Sandhya Ben managed to achieve that. So I'm just wondering why Mandir could not also perhaps use that idea.
Okay. Okay. So then, Sheetal bhai, we should definitely filter our water at home using a cloth and using a process that you just explained, a cloth that heavy, and then making sure that once it is filtered, jeev vani jane ke bhai, we let the jeeves go back to the stream of flowing water.
Well, yes and no. Know why? Because the hinsa has already been done. So the water that comes from your tap is hinsak water. So by filtering hinsak water does not really achieve anything, really. Yeah, but what you have to understand is because we are Jains, we are conditioned into filtering our water. But you still have to, just because we can't have real Jain water, doesn't mean you shouldn't have the Gnan. Gnan ka nished kabhi nahi karna. ज्ञान तो अवश्य करना करना करना, चारित्र का पालन हुए या न हुए वो दूसरी बात है, लेकिन ज्ञान तो करना, आपको सही ज्ञान होगा तो कभी ना कभी
Yeah. Okay. So moving on, again, related to the same question about food habits.
Yeah.
Fermentation, right? So we spoke about yogurt. So in making yogurt and for bread, we all know generally as a Jain, we stay away from it. But the same fermentation process is used in both cases, right? So, so which is better? So obviously fermentation process involves hinsa. So does that mean that even yogurt consumption we should avoid it?
Well, you see, whatever we do, if we walk, if we clap our hands, if we breathe, there's hinsa involved. It's a
Yes.
question of limiting the hinsa. So yogurt has a maryada of 24 hours. So if you consume yogurt within 24 hours, then it is prescribed according to the Jain diet. But the bread, the fermentation process is a lot longer. So that's why it is a bhaksha. But yogurt you can have within 24 hours. But the point about yogurt is the culture must not be the yogurt itself. The culture must either be nareti or chandi ka sikka. Nareti यानी जो hard shell होता है ना कोकोनट का, उसको nareti
Yeah.
बोलते हैं. तो वो
Okay.
यूज करना और चांदी का सिक्का यूज करना, उससे ही दही जमाना. तो ही वो
Oh, so
भक्ष्य
there
है.
are other options available instead of using life culture, which is a
Yeah.
silver coin or a coconut
Yes.
head. Okay.
Yes. If you use live culture, the yogurt automatically becomes a bhaksha.
Yeah. I have seen my mom doing it out of almond also. So maybe we could explore that option out of almond.
Yeah. So these are the most two common methods used in India, but
Yeah.
there are other methods as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes,
Pickle-
somebody
I think Vinabhen wants to ask a
recently,
question.
someone made yogurt using a green chili as a culture.
Yeah, so there
No.
are different options available. We'll just have to explore and get used to that instead of the usual easy way out from life cultures. Okay. So
You
the
can
next,
even do it with the skin of organic lemon.
okay. Okay, so moving on. So the next question in our list is question number 8. Regarding commercial salt, right? So we have heard, or generally when we go to Jain Bhojan Shala, we have seen they use Sendha Namak or Himalayan salt, pink salt. So why is commercial salt not preferred, and why is it not consumed?
Because sea salt is mahahinsak. When they make salt out of the sea, they kill all the दिया ही है, अक्षय ही है. और जब त्यागी व्रति होते हैं नहीं करते, जब ब्रह्मचारी ये sea salt नहीं यूज करती है, लेकिन she carries her own Himalayan salt which she uses. Also, when you use the Himalayan salt, there are limits as to when you put it into powder form, because when you make it into a powder form, again, that has a prescribed duration, how long it lasts. Because after that time period, it becomes a bhaksha again.
Okay. We spoke about frozen pizza, but in general, what is your take on frozen food being consumed by our community?
Okay.
In our
basically-
fast lives, Sheetal bhai,
Yeah.
that is a go-to for most of us.
Yeah.
So what is your take on that?
आपकी फास्ट लाइफ होगी तो स्वानुभूति नहीं होगी. लाइफ जब स्लो करेंगे तो आपको विचार करने का मौका मिलेगा. विचार आप करोगे तो सम्यक दर्शन होगा. जितने भी प्रश्न इधर आए हैं ना, वे सब चरणानुयोग के ही प्रश्न है. There is no question about द्रव्यानुयोग, करणानुयोग और प्रथमानुयोग. लेकिन फ्रोजन फूड का क्या है, जो बर्फ है वो ही अभक्ष्य ही है. बर्फ है वो पूर्णतया अभक्ष्य है, इसलिए जितने भी फ्रोजन फूड है वो पूर्णतया अभक्ष्य ही है और उसकी मर्यादा ही नहीं होती. जो वस्तु अभक्ष्य है उसकी मर्यादा ही नहीं होती है. फर्स्ट तो ये पॉइंट. सेकंड पॉइंट, जो फ्रिज हम यूज करते हैं, वो त्यागी जो व्रती लोग होते हैं वो तो फ्रीज यूज ही नहीं करते हैं, क्योंकि फ्रीज ही अभक्ष्य है. जो हम वस्तु फ्रीज में डालते हैं, जस्ट गिव एन एग्जांपल, हमने रोटी बनाई, 10 रोटी बनाई, हमने 2 खाई or the rest we put in the fridge overnight.
Yeah.
So when we put it in the fridge overnight, then we eat it the following morning. तो हमको रात्रि भोजन का दोष आता है उसमें. और तीसरी बात यह है, कल्पना जी के लेक्चर्स में हम सुना है कि जब हम जो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जो होती है ना, फ्रिज को पावर करने के लिए जो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, वो भी महाहिंसक होती है. जितनी भी हम इलेक्ट्रिसिटी यूज करते हैं वो भी महाहिंसक होती है. वो बोलती थी कि हम स्कूल के दिनों में हम पिकनिक के लिए गए, तो पिकनिक के लिए गए तो रिवर थी और इलेक्ट्रिसिटी पावर प्लांट था उधर. तो वो लोग देखने के लिए गए कि इलेक्ट्रिसिटी पैदा कैसी होती है. तो वो क्या करते थे कि जो फास्ट फ्लोइंग रिवर था उसमें उन लोगों ने डेड बॉडी देखी. तो वो डेड बॉडी जाते थे, पावर प्लांट में एंटर किया और सब भस्म होकर और नेक्स्ट प्रोसेस में इलेक्ट्रिसिटी प्रोड्यूस किया. तो आप विचार कर सकते हो कि जो बड़ी बड़ी मछलियां होती है, जलचर जीव होते हैं, उसका क्या हालत होगा. तो सब हिंसा होते हुए हमको इलेक्ट्रिसिटी मिलती है. इसलिए जितनी भी बने इतनी इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कम करना चाहिए. तो फ्रिज की क्या आवश्यकता है.
तो उतना बनाओ जितना खा सको और जो
वही.
है वो खत्म करो. No
वही.
leftovers, that means.
बराबर है.
Okay. I'm just picking.
Sorry, just one other point.
Yeah.
The second example that Kalpana ji gave was if you put one apple in the fridge and you have one fresh apple, so you keep one apple in the fridge say for 7 days. So then you you keep your fresh apple that you buy from Kingsbury Fruit and Veg, you put it and you get your apple from the fridge and you see which stays longer. The apple that you recently bought will stay fresh for 7 days, but the apple that you take out from the fridge will only last for 24 hours or so. That means the rotting process has already started even though it was in the fridge. So once you brought it out, the rotting process just accelerates.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just picking some questions from the chat window, Sheetal bhai. Mushrooms.
Yeah.
Should we eat? Should we not eat?
तो अभक्ष्य ही है. Mushrooms तो fungi है, तो अभक्ष्य ही है.
It is a type of fungi. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. 108, 108. What is the significance of the number?
108 जो हम सामायिक पाठ करते हैं ना, उसमें ये 108 की गिनती आई है. करवु करावु अनुमोदनु, फिर क्रोध मान माया लोभ, फिर जो 3 प्रकार की हिंसा है, समरम आरम समारम और मन वचन काय. If you multiply that, then that becomes 108. So that is the number of types of पाप that we do. So वो पाप के प्रायश्चित के लिए हम माला गिनते हैं 108.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Generally, we follow a stricter diet during Atham and Chaudas, irrespective of our current Daslakshan. We avoid any green or leafy vegetables those days, or we try to do ekasan or whatever we can. Yeah. So why do we limit it to Atham and Chaudas? Or to put it other way around, is there any significance of doing it just on Atham and Chaudas?
Just as Paryushan Parva is Anadi Parva, same with Atham Chaudas, these are also Anadi Tithi Parva. They're not Parva as such, but they're meant to be auspicious days. And also the scriptures say during this time, Atham and Chaudas, that is when you're likely to next Ayushya jo hum jayenge, next आयुष्य का बंद भी होगा तो आठम 14 के दिन more likely होगा. इसलिए हम दोनों दिन में हम हिंसा कम करते हैं और स्वाध्याय ज्यादा करते हैं उस दो दिन.
Okay. There are still some questions regarding how do you measure hinsa. So obviously we discussed that fermentation process is involved in bread as well as in yogurt. So हिंसा तो दोनों में है. तो अगर हमें मेजर करना हो कहाँ पे ज्यादा, या फिर अगर हम ब्रेड छोड़ दे और योगर्ट ले, तो उसको कैसे हम माप कैसे सकते हैं? हाउ डू वी मेजर?
जो निश्चय से हिंसा का माप करना हो, निश्चय यानी वास्तविक, तो निश्चय से हिंसा का माप करना हो तो बाह्य से माप नहीं हो सकता। प्रवचन सार में आता है, जब मुनिराज क्रियापथ से गमन करते हैं और कोई जीव जंतु उसके पैर में होती नहीं, उसको द्रव्य हिंसा तो हुई है लेकिन भाव हिंसा नहीं है, क्योंकि वो सावधानी पूर्वक ही चलते हैं। और दूसरी तरफ जो तुमने हिंसा, द्रव्य हिंसा तो की ही नहीं, लेकिन बैठे बैठे भाव हिंसा करो तो वो भाव हिंसा का फल न रखे। जैसे कि शास्त्र में अष्टावक्र जी में आया है, तंदुल मच्छ का दृष्टांत तो प्रख्याति है। तंदुल मच्छ जो बड़े मच्छ के कान में बैठा था, और जो बड़ा मच्छ था वो सब मछलियों को खा जाता था, और जब वो मुंह बंद करता था तो अमुक मछलियां छूट जाती थी। तो उसने सोचा हम इतना बड़ा होता तो हम वन भी
सब
फिश
ले
को,
लेते।
हाँ, सब निकल जाते। तो वो द्रव्य हिंसा तो कर नहीं पाया था, वो बहुत छोटी सी साइज उसकी, लेकिन भाव से वो साथ में रख जाता है। So the important point is not about dravya, but it is about bhav.
Yeah.
लेकिन इसमें दोनों में सुमेल होता है। तो आप ऐसा न कर सकते हो हम कंदमूल भी खाए और हमारा भाव हम शुद्ध रखे, ऐसा नहीं हो सकता। भाव शुभ रखे और कंदमूल हम खाए, अनशना पानी पिए, रात्रि भोजन करे, ऐसा नहीं हो सकता।
So there is a very fine balance and compatibility between what you feel, your feeling and your actions. So if you feel a certain way, your
Yeah.
actions just show that, right? Your belief and your feelings.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
They say in English, you are what you eat. You are what you eat. तो आप मांस भक्षण करोगे तो आपकी जो जो कषाय है वो तीव्रता पाएगी, और आप जैन डाइट फॉलो करेंगे तो आप नेचुरली मन परिणामी होंगे।
Yeah. Okay, moving on, we spoke about pickle. Question number 10, Sheetal bhai.
Yes.
Should we consume pickle? Is it okay for us? And if so, what is the time limit? I just heard you say 24 days. So
24
anything
hours.
specific you want to mention on pickles?
The pickles, like we have a with the sugar, which we melt, etc. So that has a limit of 24 hours. But if you make a pickle just by using masala or salt and putting marcha in it, that has a limit of 6 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. And one other point is, when Gurudev was young, he saw, so he was asked to get a bottle of pickle. When he went to get the bottle of pickle, he saw a lot of jeev jantu on top
Yeah.
of the bar, the thing, and he left pickles for the rest of his life. He never touched pickles since then.
Yeah. Okay. So in our chat, there has
Pickle
been a
is
healthy
very
discussion going on related to boiling of water, using water for Abhishek. So one question they have mentioned is, you mentioned that, or in our Abhishek, when we do in our mandir, we boil the water, but then boiling again means a killing of jeev, right? So
No.
what is your take on that?
No, what happens is there's various ways of consuming water. One is filtering the water. If you just filter it, then that has a limit of 48 minutes.
Yeah.
One muruk ke liye rehte hai. And if you filter it, then put, say, long in it or whatever to change the color and the taste of the water, then it lasts for 6 hours.
Yeah.
And if filter the water, then boil it, it then lasts for 24 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even I have been using fennel seeds. So even fennel seeds you can use to increase the maryada of filtered water. But the point here is boiling, right? Boiling in itself will kill jeev. So is it okay for us to boil water? Obviously, we filter the water and then boil it. So the extent of violence is lower. But is it okay to use then that boiled water for Abhishek or for other drinking and for our consumption?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it lasts 24 hours. So वो भक्ष्य है, 24 hours के लिए वो पानी शुद्ध है और भक्ष्य है.
Okay. Um, I think the 11th question, we have answered it in many ways, Sheetal Bhai. What attracts less dosh? Eating leftover food next day or throw it in the bin?
Both has hinsa basically, because
Yes.
after the duration of the time limit, त्रस्त जीव की उत्पत्ति होती ही रहती है. तो आप उसको डस्टबिन में फेंको तो भी होता रहेगा और फ्रिज में रखो तो भी होएगा. तो मर्यादा के बाहर जो भोजन करता है तो उसको मांस भक्षण के समान ही होता है दोष, क्योंकि त्रस्त जीव की उत्पत्ति उसमें हो जाती है. In India, we have servants, so we give to the servants, to the poor people
Yes.
outside, we give it to them. But unfortunately, we don't have that facility. So the obvious thing is only make what you can use, and that way you are being resourceful as well. Your carbon footprint is a lot less. You're only consuming what you need. You are not wasting natural resources.
Yeah. Okay, the next one is a very basic yet very pertinent question to the entire Jain community. So we are known for two things to the outer world. One is filtering of our water. We always carry filter cloth with us wherever we go. And the second thing that all of the world knows us is for not eating after sunset. Right? So what is the reason for not eating after sunset?
क्योंकि भोजन में जो सनलाइट होती है तो उसकी जो सन का जो अल्ट्रा वायलेट लाइट होता है तो जो अल्ट्रा वायलेट के कारण हमारे भोजन में की उत्पत्ति हमारे भोजन में नहीं होता है, क्योंकि डे टाइम में अल्ट्रा वायलेट लाइट होती है वो त्रस्त जीव की उत्पत्ति में वो बाधक होता है. और जब रात्रि होती है, जब सनलाइट नहीं होती है, तब अल्ट्रा वायलेट लाइट भी नहीं होता है. इसलिए जो हम भोजन करते हैं उसमें त्रस्त जीव की उत्पत्ति होती है. ये पहला कारण है. दूसरा कारण ये है कि जो हम लाइट करके भोजन करते हैं तो लाइट की वजह से इंसेक्ट्स को मौत आदि को अट्रैक्ट करते हैं, हमारे भोजन में गिरते हैं, वो हम कंज्यूम करते हैं, तो ये भी भक्ष्य नहीं होता. और थर्ड थिंग इज इवन फॉर हेल्थ रीजंस वी नीड टू कंज्यूम इन द डे टाइम, बिकॉज हमारे पाचन शक्ति जो होती है वो सनलाइट के कारण जो फूड हम डाइजेस्ट करते हैं इजीली डाइजेस्ट कर सकते हैं, लेकिन हम जब रात्रि में भोजन करते हैं तो सनलाइट नहीं होती, तो ये जो डाइजेशन प्रोसेस है बहुत स्लो हो जाता है और हमारे बहुत सारी बीमारियां भी आती है जब हम रात्रि में भोजन करते हैं. फिर दूसरी really bad health as well. So it is ideal that when you go to sleep, your food should be 3/4 digested by the time you go to sleep.
Yes. And even it is a common way of a lifestyle which is advocated throughout the world now. Eat your dinner by 6 or 7 latest. So yes.
So if you look at animals, even most animals that are not nocturnal, they eat on the daytime only. They don't eat at night. If you look at the pigeons in your garden, they will only come and feed in the daytime. They will not eat at night. So it's very natural to eat in the daytime. And what we do is we disturb the natural processes, and therefore it leads to bodily illnesses, cancers, high blood pressure, etc. So be your own doctor. Follow a Jain diet, read the scriptures.
Yeah. So, Sheetal Bhai, a very practical question on how do we manage our timing during winters here in UK, right? So it gets, the sunset happens at what, 3:30, 4 p.m. So how do we manage that?
You need to plan, essentially. It's all about planning. There are a lot of people that still manage to do it despite the harsh winters. They still manage to follow, so they have their dinner at 3 o'clock or 2:30. They have their dinner. Then they sort of have their breakfast around 7:30, around 8 o'clock after sunrise. So it is doable. Nothing is impossible. Determines how willpowered you are, how much determination you have to follow the Jain principles, and the guidelines about the dieting. So it depends. मोक्ष में जाना हो तो पुरुषार्थ तो करना ही होगा. पुरुषार्थ बिना कुछ हम अचीव नहीं कर सकते हैं. तो जब मोक्ष में इतना पुरुषार्थ चाहिए तो हमारा खान पान तो बहुत आसान है.
Yep. Okay. So moving on our list of questions, Sheetal Bhai, haircut and shaving. Is there any hinsa involved at all?
You are allowed to have haircuts up until the 5th gunasthan. मुनि महाराज हमारे जो होते हैं वो हेयर कट्स अलाउड नहीं होता है. वो केश लॉन्च करते हैं. मुनि महाराज के लिए शास्त्र में ऐसा नियम है. जो उत्कृष्ट चर्या है वो एवरी मंथ हेयर कट केश लॉन्च करते हैं. मध्यम जो मुनिराज है वो 2 महीने में केश लॉन्च करते हैं. और जो जगन्य मुनिराज है वो 3 महीने में केश लॉन्च करते हैं. लेकिन जो पंचम गुण स्थानवर्ती जो श्रावक है वो केश लॉन्च नहीं करते हैं. वो हेयर कटिंग कर सकते हैं. ऐसे शास्त्र में आए हैं. उसमें थोड़ी घनी हिंसा तो होगी, लेकिन हम जब हेयर कट नहीं करेंगे तो क्या होता है, हेयर बहुत बड़ा हो जाता है और त्रस जीव की उत्पत्ति होने लगती है. तो उसमें तो महाहिंसा होती है. इसलिए हेयर कट करना बहुत जरूरी है.
Okay. The next question from our list, Sheetal Bhai. So we recently saw Taliban take over Afghanistan and all the world fighting for world peace. So what is your take on how, if Jains are involved, what should be our take on that? Or what is your take when it is related to violence, or if somebody does violence on us, how should we be reacting?
There's 2 thoughts on this. The first thought is when Gandhiji asked Srimad Rajchandra this question. So the question that Gandhiji asked Srimad Rajchandra was to strike you. So you only have 2 options. You either kill the snake or the snake kills you. So what would you do? And Srimad's reply was this: just as my body, just as I'm attached to my body, the snake is attached to its own body. So let the snake do what it wants to. That's his way of thinking. The second way of thinking is, if you read the Purans, you will understand that that before the Jains used to be kings as well. The last Jain king was Chandragupta Maurya, but before him there was a dynasty of Jain kings, and they fought. So if there was an invading kingdom from next to invading kingdom, they would repel them, they would fight them. That's why we have the Mahabharat Yudh, the Ramayana Yudh. In the Mahabharat Yudh, the Pandavas who were Samyak Drashti, they fought the Kauravas. And in the Ramayana, Ram was Samyak Drashti, Lakshman was Samyak Drashti, and he fought, and Lakshman killed Ravan. Ravan. And also in Jivandan है, तो उसमें जीवन में भी उसके पिता का जो मंत्री था वो दुष्ट था, तो वो मंत्री ने उसका राज्य छीन लिया था. तो ये जीवंदर कुमार भी वो मंत्री से युद्ध किया, उसको मार डाला और फिर दीक्षा लेकर वो भी मोक्ष चले गए.
So related to this question, I'm just picking it up from chat, Sheetal Bhai. So how should we then develop a skill of not providing an opinion which may involve hinsa, or avoiding a conversation that may do karmbandh?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah. So the question is, how do we develop a skill of not providing an opinion? So many times in our conversation, or when we are having a heated discussion, we tend to provide an opinion which may then lead to further anger or frustration or hinsa, right? So how do we restrain, or what skill should we develop to restrain from giving an opinion which may lead to hinsa?
Yeah, but so you are assuming just by giving an opinion means kashai. You can give an opinion and remain vitrag.
Is that possible?
Of course. जो हमारे मुनिराज थे वो न्याय शास्त्र के पारगामी थे और वे वाद विवाद करने जाते हैं। जो समनभद्र आचार्य थे वो स्वयं लिखते हैं कि हम शार्दूल के जैसे सिंह जंगल में विचरण करते हैं, हम भी देश विदेश में विचरण करते हैं और वाद विवाद करके अन्य मत को हम परास्त कर देते हैं। वो स्वयं लिखते हैं। तो वो जो वाद विवाद करते हैं वो कैसे करते होंगे? वो तो भावलिंगी संत थे। तो वितरागता से, क्योंकि उसको क्या करना था, उसको जैन धर्म की प्रभावना करनी थी, इसलिए वो वाद विवाद करते थे। तो इसलिए यह नहीं सोचना कि वाद विवाद करे इसलिए हम पक्षपाती बन जाए, ऐसा नहीं होता।
So we should state the fact and give our opinion, and just if of course if it is through our Jain teachings and sehmat of our Jain tattva, we should never fear from giving the true picture or our opinion.
Well, it depends on the situation. When the jeev in front of you is Tivra Kashai, then it is better not to say anything at all.
Yeah.
Like if there is fire, if you put ghee on the fire, then the fire increases. तो जो तीव्र कषाई जो जीव है उसको उपदेश देने जाओगे तो झगड़ा हो जाएगा। तो इसलिए उसके सामने तो मौन धारण करना ही अच्छा है। और जो आपको लगे ये मंद कषाई है, उसको तीव्र रुचि है, वो थोड़ा संस्कारी है, तो उपदेश दो। जो उपदेश कार्यकारी हो तो करना। तो ऐसा लगे कि ये उपदेश कार्यकारी नहीं होगा तो मौन धारणा ही अच्छा है।
Sheetal bhai, related to your earlier question or related to shaving and cutting of hair, ladies generally tend to keep long hair, right? So how acceptable is that? So you said that keeping long hair will then attract trasjeev and have more hinsa. So should we all then go boycott or bob cut?
Long hair, if it is not cleaned, will lead to utpatti of trasjeev. Therefore, Muniraj don't let their hair grow. They do kench launch. That's the whole purpose of kench launch. So it depends. Like जो त्यागी व्रती होते हैं, वो बड़े बड़े बाल नहीं रखते, वो काट लेते हैं, क्योंकि मेंटेन करने के लिए समय चाहिए ना। जो लॉन्ग हेयर रखते हो तो कितने घंटे लगते हो कोम करने के लिए और स्टाइल करने के लिए, तो समय का बर्बादी ये तो है। बॉयकट होए तो बहुत अच्छा है। तो 7 days आप नहीं धो तो भी चल जाएगा, किसी को खबर भी नहीं होगा कि आपने वॉश नहीं किया है, तो बहुत बढ़िया है। और बाल ही नहीं है तो बहुत अच्छा है।
Thank you. Thank you, Sheetal bhai. That was an excellent fashion tip for all of us. But moving back to our questions, watching political news, getting engaged in social media. So there are so many social media platforms nowadays. TV is there, so we always tend to get engaged in the political news. I'll just pick up a few points that I see in the chat section as well. Supporting a political party, voting for a political party, having a stance toward the political issues. What type of hinsa is it?
There is nothing wrong with having a view on a political party. Like if we have an election, you can't say that Jains shouldn't go out and vote. What I would say is go out and vote. The country needs you. Just because you are Jain, that doesn't mean you shouldn't have an opinion. Because at the end of the day, it is not a question of how you get that opinion across that matters. It's a question of your kashai. And the second thing is about watching TV, was it? But political news.
Yes, yeah.
About political news, what I would say is it depends how you watch it. Because आपको याद भगवान होते हैं, होते हैं, केवल ज्ञानी होते हैं, वो सब जीव को जानते हैं, उसके पूर्व को भी जानते हैं, भविष्य को भी जानते हैं। सास जो मदर इन लॉ डॉटर इन लॉ का जो झगड़ा होता है, वो ये भी जानते हैं कि वर्तमान में झगड़ा होता है, पूर्व भव में भी वो झगड़ा होता है, भविष्य में ये होगा। तो वो तो वितरागता से जानते हैं। जानना दोष का कारण नहीं है, कषाय दोष का कारण है। मात्र जानना दोष का कारण नहीं है, कषाय और जो हमारी मान्यता है वो सही दोष, जो मोह राग द्वेष परिणाम है, वो दोष का कारण है. So it depends how you watch the news. The second thing was when we had the coronavirus pandemic, a lot of people were saying they were very depressed looking at the same news over and over again. So what I used to say to people is, it's important that you know the news. So you follow the right government advice, you know what's happening out there. That is also important, but you limit to what you watch. So instead of watching it for the 1 hour getting depressed, watch it for 10 minutes per day. So set yourself a limit that I will only watch the news for 10 minutes. क्योंकि 10 minutes में सब news आ जाता ही है. The rest is all vista.
Yeah. And what do you have to say about I wouldn't say youngsters, because even we are hooked to our phone, social media, Facebook, Insta, and whatnot nowadays, right?
Sure.
So what do you think about that engagement? Do you think that is hinsa as well?
तो मैं आपको एक प्रश्न पूछता हूँ कि जो सोशल मीडिया है उससे सम्यक दर्शन हो सकता है या नहीं हो सकता?
उसके भेद ज्ञान से हो सकता है, उससे नहीं हो सकता.
नहीं, हम तो कहते हैं सोशल मीडिया से ही सम्यक दर्शन हो सकता है, क्योंकि हम depends what social media you use. If you use your WhatsApp, your Telegram to read scriptures, if you use your YouTube to watch pravachans, तो सम्यक दर्शन हो सकता है. We are having this via Zoom. If we didn't have the social media, we would not have Zoom. Then we wouldn't be able to do swadhyay. So it's like being able to use the sword. Depends. जो आप तलवार चलाते हो, आपको तलवार चलाते नहीं आई तो आपका सिर भी कट सकता है, लेकिन तलवार सही दिशा में चलाना आई तो शत्रु का सिर कट जाता है. इसलिए डिपेंड्स हाउ यू यूज सोशल मीडिया. पर ये जो ट्रेंड है ना, बड़े बड़े फेस ग्रुप्स होना, किसी का एनिवर्सरी हो तो सब लोग हैप्पी एनिवर्सरी करते हैं, किसी का बर्थडे हो सब हैप्पी बर्थडे करते हैं. तो ये सब तो गलत ही है, क्योंकि क्या होता है इसमें कि शियोप्शन हमारा बाह्य में बहुत विस्तृत हो जाता है, बाह्य में भी बहुत विस्तृत होता फैल जाता है. तो हम कब हमारे उपयोग को समेट ले तो हम समेटने से दूर हो जाते हैं. इसलिए ये बहुत खतरनाक है. और जो सोशल मीडिया में रोज लोग 2-3 घंटे आलतू फालतू में टाइम वेस्ट करते हैं, ये तो प्योर टाइम वेस्ट ही है.
Okay, so just checking through the time, Sheetal bhai, I'll skip few questions which are more or less related to social media stuff, and I'll come to a question that have been a part of a discussion for a long time, related to ladies, right? So there are periods in a month where ladies do not go to temple or do not engage in temple activities or few other activities, right? So what is the reason behind it? Because if we look from the biological aspect and the hormonal changes that a female body goes through, even the male body goes through, and they have similar hormonal changes. So what is the real reason behind females not going to temple or restricting themselves during those days of the month?
It's because the way the hormones work in a man works different in a woman, essentially. Because जो रक्त बहता है वह महा अशुद्ध है, इसलिए वो अशुद्धि के कारण हम शास्त्र भी नहीं छू सकते हैं, कुकिंग भी नहीं कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि वो महा शुद्धि तो है, महा अशुद्ध है. इसलिए वो जो मेंस्ट्रुअल साइकिल का जो पीरियड है, तो ये सब काम से निवृत्त होना चाहिए.
So it is not the usual blood flow like we can get from a cut or a bruise, which obviously if we apply some medicine or if we cover it, it is okay. But this blood which flows out of a female body in itself is impure, which then makes the female body impure during those days to participate in any kind of temple activities.
Well, not only that, women who have this cycle, they are also not allowed to cook or go to work or do anything, essentially, because even if you cook, the impurity gets transferred onto the food. So strictly speaking, it's not just about the mandir activity, but home activity as well.
And is it the same reason? There was an earlier question on Abhishek as to why only men do Abhishek or boys, even girls, small young girls and females are not allowed. Is it the same reason?
No, there's another reason behind it. The main reason is when from the fifth Gunasthan onwards, जो ब्रह्मचर्य व्रत होता है, so from the fifth Gunasthan, I think it's the seventh Pratima, I can't remember. I think seventh Pratima is Brahmacharya Pratima. So from that Pratima onwards, no woman is allowed to touch that shravar. जब मुनि होते हैं, तो लेडीज को 7 हाथ दूर से ही वंदन करना होता है, वो नजदीक नहीं आ सकती। इसीलिए जब भगवान हो जाते हैं, तो वे तो परम ब्रह्मचारी है, इसलिए स्त्री को भगवान की प्रतिमा को छूने का निषेध है।
Yeah, okay. Question number 23 on our list, Sheetal Bhai, on Muhurat and auspicious time, right? So should we as Jains believe in a Muhurat or an auspicious time for doing some of our sansarik karya or activities, like if we get a new home, to enter the home or start living in that home, or even to extend it beyond? There are many, even the aesthetics of a house, right? In which direction should your bed be, or in which direction should you put that?
Feng Shui essentially.
Yes. Yeah. So how is that related to Jainism as well? What is your thought on that and Muhurat?
We have scriptures on Feng Shui. Like when we build a temple, it is prescribed in which direction God should be facing. It should either be the north or the east or whatever, where the Gabara should be. So it is prescribed. So we do believe in Feng Shui. The second point is time is an important element, because whenever we have breakfast in the morning, we have dinner at night, we do puja in the morning, we do Abhishek in the morning. So there are prescribed times. The best time for meditation is in the morning, which is the Brahm Muhurat. And also we have times like the 4th era, the 5th era. We are in the 5th era where we can't go to moksha. Like in the 4th era, where we can go to moksha. In the 5th era, we can't go to Satmi Narak. But in the 4th era, you can go to Satmi Narak. So time has an important place to play. So that's why these murats are there. So whenever you start whenever you start an event, you look for the murat. But having said that, though, that doesn't necessarily mean कि जो आपने पूर्व में पुण्य और पाप किया है, वो सब नष्ट हो जाएगा. That is not the meaning of it. जो पाप किए हो, वो उदय में आएगा. क्योंकि सब जो शादी करते हैं, वो मुहूर्त के दिन में ही करते हैं, तो दिवस क्यों होते हैं?
Okay. And just to extend the discussion about Vastu Shastra, Sheetal Bhai, yes, Meenaben, thanks for that word. I just couldn't recollect that word, Vastu Shastra. Yeah. But people change their entire house and flat over Vastu Shastra. They just redo everything. So how logical is that?
Well, the first thing is, do they follow?
They change names even. I've seen people using double Ks and double S and whatnot. Numerology, just extending it to all.
Yeah, well, I've known people who use the Vastu Shastra to change, a married couple, they use the Vastu Shastra to change their bedroom, the house or whatever. Then 2 months later, they became divorced. But the important point is, it depends. Do they follow the Jain Vastu Shastra or another Vastu Shastra? Because there are a lot of people out there who want to make money out of these things. So they write false scriptures on Vastu Shastra, So so it depends whether you get to go to the right place or not. So because we are in the fifth era, it's becoming a money making scheme essentially. So I would probably say forget Vastu Shastra, because जो वास्तु शास्त्र का जो सही ज्ञान होता है वो इस पंचम काल में तो नष्ट हो गया है। किसी को सही ढंग में ये पढ़ने को नहीं आता है।
Yeah.
So there's no getting, so there's no point getting, no point beating yourself up about it.
Yeah. We are well above time, but just last two questions, Sheetal Bhai, because those we think are really pertinent.
Yeah.
How can a child or a teenager, how can he or she use science to prove some of these Jain teachings and principles? So how do you think these young, curious minds of our Pathshala kids and otherwise, how do we sustain them and how do we motivate them towards this?
जो हमारे पाठशाला होते हैं उसका टाइटल है ना वितराग विज्ञान पाठमाला। विज्ञान का व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ विज्ञान? विज्ञान मीन्स साइंस। ये जो जैन धर्म है वो फुली साइंस बेस्ड तो है। जो हमारे जो कर्णान योग शास्त्र है, तो आप कर्णान योग को अभ्यास करोगे तो जो मैथ्स फॉर्मूला है, तो हमने लगता है कि 1000 years पहले जो कोई मैथमेटिशियन होगा उसने ये फॉर्मूला क्रिएट की है, लेकिन आप 2000 year old शास्त्र पढ़ो तो आपको बहुत आश्चर्य होगा कि हमारे जैन आचार्यों भी बहुत छोटे छोटे वर्सेस में ये फॉर्मूला बताते थे। हैव यू हर्ड ऑफ शकुंतला देवी? इंडिया में शकुंतला देवी एक है, so she uses formula. So if you give her mathematical problem, she gives you the solution to it in literally a split of a second. She gives you the answer. So she gets the answer from the Jain scriptures, because the Jain monks have found a formula to find answer to big numbers. So there's formula behind it, which makes the mathematics very, very fast. That's the first point. Second point is Jeev Samas. If you study Jeev Samas, you will understand कि जीव कहाँ है, उसमें कितनी इंद्रिय है। जीव समास पढ़ने से हम क्या खाना चाहिए, क्या नहीं खाना चाहिए, ये वेस्टर्न फिलोसोफर्स है वो तो पहले वनस्पति में जीव है वो मानने में ही तैयार नहीं थे। अभी भी वो मानते हैं कि जिसमें जो वर्टिब्रे नहीं है उसको कोई पेन ही नहीं फील करता। हमारा साइंस तो कहता है जो पेड़ पौधे है उसको भी पेन होता है। ये साइंटिफिकली लॉजिकल है, क्योंकि जो पौधे है, जो ट्रीज है, वो भी एक वाइट दूध की तरह पॉइजन निकालते हैं। क्यों निकालते हैं? क्योंकि जो कोई उसको भक्ष्य करे तो पॉइजन से वो डिफेंड करता है। तो कितना साइंस है हमारा कि पेड़ पौधे को भी पेन फील होता है, वो भी स्पर्श इंद्रिय उसके पास है। तो ये जीव समास है। और दूसरा है जो भगवती आराधना में है, आप भगवती आराधना को पढ़ो तो उसमें आया है कि जब बर्थ होता है तो बर्थ 9 months में बेबी डेवलप होती है। तो 2 months में क्या होता है, हाथ पैर छोटे छोटे निकलते हैं। फिर 3 महीने में क्या होता है, 4 महीने में क्या होता है, बहुत फैक्चुअल है। जो डॉक्टर पढ़ेंगे तो उसको आश्चर्य होगा कि ये तो 2000 year old शास्त्र में लिखा हुआ है कि बेबी की डेवलपमेंट किस तरह होती है। ये है। और दूसरा जो द्रव्यानु योग है, दैट इज फुल ऑफ साइंस। द्रव्यानु योग में पुद्गल की बात आती है। मैटर कैन नॉट बी क्रिएटेड, मैटर कैन नॉट बी डिस्ट्रॉयड, मैटर जस्ट चेंजेस फॉर्म। जो केमिस्ट्री का फंडामेंटल प्रिंसिपल है तो यही तो है। और जो द्रव्यानु योग शास्त्र है वो बहुत डिटेल में जाता है। एटम क्या है, स्कंद क्या है। जो साइंस मानते ये एटम है, वे तो वास्तविक स्कंद ही है। तो जो हमारा जो मैटर जो स्कंद है कैसे क्रिएट होते हैं, कैसे डिस्ट्रॉय होते हैं, कैसे विघटन होता है, संगठन कैसे होता है, ये प्योर साइंस तो है।
Those fission and fusion and all of that.
That's right. And we also have Ayurvedic scriptures as well. Ayurvedic scriptures तो जो वेजिटेशन है उसमें भी दवाइयों का काम करती है। तो वे आयुर्वेदिक शास्त्रों पे हमारे पास है। तो ये प्रूव करता है जितना भी जैन शास्त्र है वो प्योर लॉजिक है और वास्तविक सत्य है। क्यों वास्तविक सत्य है? क्योंकि भगवान की वाणी है जो त्रिकालवर्ती सत्य की वाणी होती है वो सत्य ही होती है। और दूसरा, जो हमारे मुनिराज होता है वे महासत्यधारी होते हैं, महासत्य व्रत के धारी है, वो झूठे क्यों लखे।
हाँ,
और लास्ट पॉइंट ये है, why prove to someone else that Jainism is correct? Prove to yourself Jainism is correct. Achieve सम्यक दर्शन। दूसरों के सुधारने की चिंता में मत पड़ो, क्योंकि शास्त्र में तो आया ही है, जैन धर्म टिका रहेगा 5th आरा के अंत तक। तो बोझा माथे क्यों लेना है कि हम नहीं होंगे तो जैन धर्म नहीं टिकेगा। ऐसा मत सोचना, वो टिकने वाला ही है।
very well said. Thank you, Sheetal bhai. The last question for the evening is, and you rightly pointed out, Sheetal bhai, most of our questions that we spoke about today were related to Acharan. Su khau, su no khau, su karvu, no karvu, kevirte behave karvu, conduct keu ho joye. So
Can I just say one other thing? Don't take it badly, but your questions जो है इसमें स्पष्ट होता है कि शास्त्र के अभ्यास नहीं है, इसलिए ऐसे प्रश्न आते हैं।
yeah,
क्योंकि जो भी प्रश्न आए हैं वो सब चरण योग संबंधी है। No one's asked me a question कि ये गाथा का अर्थ क्या है, आचार्य देव इस शास्त्र में ऐसे क्यों लिखते हैं। There's none of those questions. तो हम प्रेरणा देना चाहते हैं कि सब शास्त्र का अभ्यास करना चाहिए, फिर प्रश्न करो। ये रिवर्स प्रोसेस नहीं होना चाहिए, लेकिन अच्छी बात है, रुचि जागृत करने के लिए अच्छी बात है।
I think that sums up the last question, Sheetal bhai. What is more important, reading through our scriptures, knowing our religion, or a tiny bit of acharan or conduct that we get lost in, right? Just following few principles and acharan.
So your question essentially is, what is more important, understanding or shraddha or a bit of acharan?
Yeah.
जो गुरुदेव हमारे थे 45 वर्ष से क्या समझाया है कि हम पहले तो ऐसे ही मानते थे कि आचरण से ही मोक्ष होगा, तो उसने 45 वर्ष से निषेध किया, आचरण से कुछ नहीं होने वाला है, पहले तो श्रद्धा आती है और श्रद्धा के बाद आचरण आता है। श्रद्धा सुधरेगी तो आचरण नियम से सुधरेगा ही, लेकिन आचरण सुधारने जाओगे और जो श्रद्धा नहीं सुधरेगी तो भव भ्रमण का अंत नहीं होने वाला है। 84 योनि का चक्कर है वो चालू ही रहेगा। ऐसे गुरुदेव जी 45 वर्ष से वे यही फरमाते थे। अष्टावक्र में ऐसी भी गाथाएं स्पष्ट रूप से है कि जो आचरण है, जो आचरण सुधारता है, उसका डेफिनेटली मोक्ष होगा। ये कोई नक्की नहीं है, ये कोई नियम नहीं है, लेकिन जो सम्यक दृष्टि है, फिर भी जो आचरण में उसका आचरण कोई भी नहीं है, जो चौथे गुणस्थान वाला है, जो सम्यक दृष्टि है लेकिन आचरण नहीं है, उसका नियम से मोक्ष जाना ही पक्का ही है। और जो हम सम्यक दृष्टि की जो भूमिका होती है, जो भरत चक्रवर्ती है, भरत चक्रवर्ती ने युद्ध किया, 96,000 रानियों को परना, वो उसका बहुत सारा वैभव था, बहुत सारा परिकर रखते हैं, कुछ भी बाहर से तो ऐसा ही दिखते हैं कि उसका तो कुछ भी आचरण नहीं है, लेकिन अंदर से तो वेद विज्ञान वर्तता था। इसलिए आचरण से कुछ महत्व नहीं है। प्रथम भूमिका में आचरण का कुछ भी महत्व नहीं है, क्योंकि आचरण न होते हुए भी भरत चक्रवर्ती था, वो शायद सम्यक दृष्टि था। इसलिए इतनी तैयारी कर ली थी कि जब वो मुनि दीक्षा ग्रहण कर लिया तो अंतर्मुख में ही उसको केवल ज्ञान की प्राप्ति हो गई थी।
गुरुदेव के प्रवचन में भी आता है ना, एकड़ा विना ना मिंडा।
तो एकड़ा बिना ना मिलता है, लेकिन जो सम्यक दृष्टि होता है उसके जीवन में अन्याय, अनीति और अभक्ष्य त्याग तो होता ही है। इतनी आचरण की मर्यादा तो होती है सम्यक दृष्टि को।
ठीक है, थैंक यू शीतल भाई।
Can I add a couple of things before you finish the session? It's regarding the ladies Abhishek and the hair.
Yes.
Okay. When I was in Devlali and they had all the Pandit Shibir, the hall was full, really full, overflowing. And the question came about, when the men are doing Abhishek, ladies are doing Anumodna, but they're doing the actions with their hands. So is that allowed or not? So our Panditji Uttam Chandji said, okay, because ladies are not allowed to do Abhishek, if they do this, it is a pap. They can do Anumodna, they can join the hands, but they should not, even the erg, when the Abhishek Prakshalan no erg hoy ne, gents ke kare ne, to ladies should not even like, with the hand do that action. Just want to make clear that point. Another point is about the hair. Prakalpna Ben, Brahmachari Kalpna Ben, she said the hair, long or short hair, if we cut the short hair, the ladies cut it to short, make short hair, like, we are trying to change our like female to the male. But have long hair, but to have it tied properly, they should not be left khula. Even in the house or mandir mato, they should be properly tied, actually covered properly as well, because it's a big hinsa. She said something about the hair. I'm not sure whether it's related to blood or something like that. Trust you. It's that type of, that I'm not 100% sure, but she said something like that. So the hair should be covered in the mandir properly, even hair, in the like in the kitchen, if the little hair comes somewhere, it's really not good. Just wanted to make sure, clear that point. Sorry.
Thank you, Suryaben. Thank you so much. And Sheetal Bhai, thank you so much. And as I earlier said, you are now nimit in all of us spiritual journey. And thank you very much.
Thank you,
Just one announcement before we do Janwani Stuti and end today's event. Next weekend, we are going to host a debate. Now, the topic that we have kept is something that we all have been struggling with. In our day-to-day lives, we generally listen to some motivational speakers, maybe related to our religion, maybe not related to our religion. We get inclined towards meditation, art of living, TED Talks, pep talks, which suddenly boosts our confidence and, hell, I can do anything that I want, right? So those type of motivational speakers, motivational speeches versus what Sheetal Bhai just explained to us, our dharma, our vitrag dharma, and how that changes our flow of life and our understanding and our way of living life. So that would be the debate topic: motivational speakers, TED Talk versus vitrag vani. So that would be the topic for the debate next week. We are looking for participants. So each one and every one of you can participate, but unfortunately we'll have time constraints. So we are looking for 7 participants on each side. So 7 for and 7 against. So if you are interested, and please do send your names over to Jignesh Bhai, Sandeep Bhai, or myself. Okay. Janwani Stuti. निज निधि निज में बताए यह अनंत उपकार है, इसके लिए जिनवाणी माँ को वंदना शत बार है, वंदना शत बार है। बोलो जिनवाणी मात नु
जय हो।
बोलो जैन धर्म नो
जय हो।
बोलो आज नो उत्तम मार्दव दिन नो
जय हो।
बोलो 10 लक्षण महापर्व नो
जय हो।
Jai Jinendra, everyone. See you all tomorrow morning in Monday.
Jai Jinendra.
Jai Jinendra.
Jai Jinendra.